Okay, this is part two. If you're starting with this part, please back up and watch part one first. Moving on to our research questions. After coming up with a hypothesis of what we thought would happen, looking at our literature review to get support of how we thought tutoring would go, we ultimately created two research questions that we wanted to focus on. The first question is, in what ways would tutoring with front loading help close the academic achievement gap in elementary school mathematics for on-the-cusp students? That was acting as our primary question. Our secondary question we also wanted to look into was, what effect would tutoring have on student behavior and participation for the on-the-cusp students in the classroom participating in the tutoring?
So now we're going to go into methodology. So at my school, it is a Title I elementary school, and it consists of students ranging from TK, transitional kinder, all the way through fifth grade. So this was like I said before, I am a third grade teacher, so this tutoring session happened within a third grade classroom. At my school, we're very ethnically diverse school and have a very wide population of students. And at my school, teachers and support staff are willing to model instruction for each other in different lessons and study and share their knowledge. So this was something that I was excited to do because I was going to be able to share this with other teachers and be able to see if they would like to also do this for their on-the-cusp students. For these tutoring sessions, it took place from 7 to 7:30 in the morning, and school starts at 7:40, so this was the perfect half an hour before school started. And during this time, students received front loading of the material that would be presented in class during the day. Tutoring sessions were held on Mondays, Thursdays, and Friday mornings, and these were strictly chosen because Monday was a day where we could review and do some front loading of the previous week's material, as well as Thursday and Friday. Most Fridays were when assessments were given during the school day, so that was time to be able to review any material that was a little more difficult for them still. Tutoring sessions contain both front loading and reteaching, like I said. So sessions started with the reteaching of the material from the day before, and then front loading was given for the material that be presented in class. And this was led by me as the teacher, and then they were able to try on and show their knowledge of everything. And students worked both one-on-one with me as well as in partnerships and whole group. Every tutoring session included front loading of the lesson, which allows students to preview the unit for the day or for the lesson for the day. And we also were able to discuss vocabulary that they might use throughout the lesson and key concepts that were going to be taught throughout there. This allowed them to increase their knowledge of what was going to be taught during the school day. So it gave them that confidence level of I already know some of this, and this is what I can use throughout the school day when math comes about.
Okay, so one of the purposes of the tutoring is that students would have the opportunity to ask any questions about misconceptions they had, any of confusion in the processes needed to reach the final answers in the type of problems that they were doing, as well as get clarification on misconceptions of vocab terms or the process of solving a problem. Melissa was able to help tailor the tutoring more and more as time went on, as she fielded these questions and started to understand what they were struggling the most with. During the tutoring sessions, that we made sure that Melissa would be using a wide variety of strategies. So they had teacher to student one-on-one time ratio at some points. Sometimes you do peer activities. There was stuff through the textbook. There was stuff with whiteboards. They did activities with multiple types of manipulatives to help counting to solve problems, as well as peer collaboration. The way that the tutoring sessions would break down is that the first 5 to 10 minutes or so would be some review problems from something already covered in the unit. Melissa would give the students a few minutes to be able to solve those problems independently, being able to use manipulatives, whiteboards, or paper and pen, depending on the type of problems that they were focusing on that day. And then once they had a chance to solve those problems, she'd ask the kids to pair share out with their partner, reasoning through the problem, why they took the steps that they took to solve it. And she'd be able to walk around during this time and see what their thinking was, if there was any errors in that thinking. And the students also had the opportunity to see maybe how someone else was thinking through the problem and learn new strategies during that share out time. That left about 20 minutes or so each time during the tutoring sessions, where Melissa would front load what would be happening later that day in actual mathematics class, so the students could be introduced to the concepts, any key vocabulary, and see some problems. By giving them some sample problems, she was able to see what the students knew before instruction of the actual school day and be able to kind of cater that last 20 minutes to work on different areas where they were having problems so they'd have more confidence during actual math class. At the very end of the tutoring sessions, she'd ask the students to fill out an exit slip, which is another way to see if they had gained proficiency in the material that they were covering that day and understood the things from the lesson.
And then going into data collection. So as the tutoring was happening, I was able to collect multiple forms of data. So I looked at assessments that were given, I looked at quizzes that were given, I looked at their behavior and participation throughout the school day after they had been tutored, and they were all considered for each specific student that was a participant in this study. And then I also gave participating students a pre-assessment of what the unit was going to cover. So this allowed me to understand what the students knew and what I per se did not need to cover in tutoring and what I should cover in tutoring. That the students would see throughout the unit of study within the school day. In addition, students were given a questionnaire. The questionnaire had some questions such as, how do you feel about math? Do you feel confident within math? Why or why not? Is math your favorite subject? Why or why not? Do you like solving math problems? What is your favorite way of solving them? Using counters, drawings, equations, or manipulatives. And this was just a way for me and for Rachel to see where these kids stood. Do they really like math? Do they not? If so, like why? Why were they struggling? What were those reasons? And this also gave a lot of insight as to their behaviors and their attitude towards mathematics in a way. And then during the study, I was able to take anecdotal notes throughout the school day on each student's behavior. So as math was being taught throughout the day, I was able to have a check plus minus system of, did the students independently work? Did they need help? Were they pulled for a small group? And other things like participation. Did they raise their hand? Did they know their thinking? And were they clear?
So in regards to data collection, there was also exit slips, as we talked about earlier. That was one of the forms of data that she took to see overall understanding and growth throughout the tutoring process. There was also 2 quizzes and 1 final assessment given during the unit of study that they were doing with math. Between the 3 different tests, all the different standards from the unit in mathematics were covered, and there was multiple different types of problems given to the students over the course of the 3 different tests. Some of our data collection also includes some questionnaires. We talked about how at the beginning we gave students a questionnaire to see how they felt about math as far as academically and their confidence level in it. We gave them that same survey at the end of the tutoring period for our thesis to see what had changed and if they felt like they had any gains in the subject area. Additionally, we also sent home a parent survey to see if parents had noticed any gains in confidence or attitude about math, or if they found their student having an easier time with mathematics when they talked about math with them and how tutoring was going at the school site. We also needed to make sure that we had validity. We needed to triangulate our data to make sure that we were collecting it in multiple forms. So as we discussed during data collection, we didn't just use a test, we didn't just use a questionnaire, we used a whole series of different types of data collection to make sure that we had good triangulation and that we were getting more accurate findings by using multiple sources. So again, things like classwork, observation, test scores, surveys, and other means were all incorporated into our ultimate findings in what we did with our conclusion. We also created transferability and conformability. Conformability has to do with trying to get everything down accurately. This was partially done with making sure Melissa stayed on top of her notebook and taking journal notes every day, and making sure that we were collecting the data as it was coming in and going through it and comparing and contrasting the various types of data we were collecting. Additionally, transferability was completed by helping the students have an anonymous identity. I was not aware which student was which. We gave the students numbers 1 to 15 throughout the study to try to make sure that results were dependable and there was no skews based off of opinion, and everything was actually from the data itself.
So now we're going to look at the results. So just to remind you that our research question number 1 was, in what ways would tutoring with front loading help close the academic achievement gap in elementary school mathematics for on-the-cusp students? So results that pertain to that research question was the student pre-assessment. Now the pre-assessment was given, and there were a few skills that would be seen through through the unit of study, and they hit the Common Core State Standard of 3 NBT 1, which is use place value understanding to round whole numbers to the nearest 10 and 100, and also Common Core State Standard 3 NBT 2, which is fluently add and subtract within 1,000 using strategies and algorithms based on place value, properties, and operations, and or a relationship between addition and subtraction. So on this pre-assessment, there were multiple problems that had to do with rounding and also strategies for addition and subtraction, such as add on a number line, subtract on a number line, and then rounding numbers to the nearest 10th or to the nearest 100th. And then based upon the results, it was going to be necessary to work with students in specific areas. So rounding, using a number line to round up or down was very difficult for them. So I knew this was going to be something that I needed to focus on during tutoring, as well as completing addition and subtraction problems using a number line. So the number line was something that, to me, I noticed that they had not been very comfortable with and not familiar with, because almost every single student did not do well on those questions. And then also for pertaining to research question 1 was the session exit slips. So on each exit slip, students were given a problem to solve independently to show me what they gained in the knowledge that they had from the tutoring session. So the exit slips provided students with some knowledge of the math lesson, and it allowed me to see where they would be particularly throughout the day when I would be teaching math. In reviewing the exit slips, I found that almost every student was able to complete this on their own and be successful. There was only a couple times where students mentioned, like, I still don't understand it, I'm still a little confused here, which was exactly what I needed to see so that I could focus on them and look for that specific thing throughout the school day. So when we're looking at research question 2, it was, what effects would tutoring have on student behavior and participation of the on-the-cusp students in the classroom? So for the student questionnaire, like I had talked about before, at the beginning of the study, it was evident that when I gave them the opportunity to express their thoughts and feelings about math, most students did not care for the subject area. And this was due to them not feeling confident, it being difficult, not knowing how to solve problems. And you could definitely see that these students, when the word math came about, they did not want to have anything to do with it. So many students indicated that math was very difficult for them and that they did not like it. And then also the journal of participation is what I kept for, I would watch for their participation during the math lesson, per se, as if they would raise their hand, if they're thinking, and then also if they would work independently or chose to work within a small group, or if I needed to pull them. So in week 1, the quiz was given on Friday during class, and 12 out of 15 students were proficient. All students came in to this tutoring program at a 2, which is right below grade level. So they ranged from 75% to 79%. So during week 2, an assessment was given during class on Friday, and 12 out of 15 students were proficient. In week 3, there was a quiz that was given during class on Friday, and 11 out of 15 students were proficient. So as you can see, all these students that were below proficiency have now, almost all of them have made it to proficient.
To go over the graphs, tables, conclusions, and here are questions, please look at video 3.